And our third main topic today gets sent to us by Steve Calderon, who writes, Space Jam 2 beats Black Widow in a surprise victory at this weekend's box office. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The sequel brought in $31.6 million, the best opening for a family film during the pandemic. However, with the film also available on HBO Max, do you think it will be able to recoup its $150 million budget and marketing costs? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, Space Jam 2 is out. Space Jam 2 is out. Rob, I'll tell you what, I had very, very low expectations of this. I didn't think the trailers looked particularly good. And then I watched it, and yeah, it's awful. This movie's, it's awful. I am a big LeBron James fan. I think LeBron James might be my second favorite basketball player of all time. I'm a big LeBron James fan. But an actor he should never try to be. Just like I should never try to be an actor either. But yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Now, I'll say this, though. There are moments in this movie that had me grinning. Actually, Rob, the most fun for me in this movie was as the game is going on, and the game itself is practically half the movie. I mean, it felt like the game itself it was almost like half the movie, but half the fun of watching this movie is picking out all the cameos in the crowd. Like, you're watching this crowd and you're like, it's the freaking Wicked Witch of the West over there. And it's Agent Smith from the Matrix over there. And they're all over. I went through it twice, and I'm sure I didn't even catch like 1/8 of all the little cameo appearances that pop up there. None of them have any lines, obviously. You just see them. You just see them somewhere in the background. And they go through all of the properties. Look, some people have criticized this movie as saying it's just a giant commercial for Warner Brothers. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. This whole movie is nothing but one big giant Warner Brothers commercial. That's all it is. Commercially and advertising and promoting all their various properties and whatever. But I'll give it its due. There's a few moments that are kind of clever, a few moments that are kind of cute. There's a cameo moment where somebody walks into the locker room. I won't give anything away, but a cameo of somebody walking into the locker room that I thought was actually a pretty good moment. So there are moments. There are definitely moments, but also overall terrible. Now, that being said, I thought this movie was going to make very little money. Rob, you and I talked about this, about how much we thought, and I thought it would make, I didn't think it was going to do all that well. And it hasn't done great, but it's done better than I thought, making $31.6 million. Now, of course, I've had people writing into me today, Rob, saying, ha, Looney Tunes beat Black Widow. I'm like, well, no, hold a second, back up. Black Widow made over $80 million opening weekend. Space Jam made almost a third of that, less than half. So no, it didn't really beat Black Widow, but it did beat Black Widow on Black Widow's second weekend. Now we're going to talk about the Black Widow situation in just a bit. So the fact of the matter is, Black Widow or not, this movie made $31 million, which I have to tell you is more than I thought it was going to do. And I think that tells us something about people who are wanting to get back into theaters. This is a family film. You know, there are parents who watched the original Space Jam, now wanted to share a second one with their offspring. I get it. But again, I still didn't think it was going to do this well. I did not think it was going to do this well. And while it's not great, it's not bad. Will it recoup a $150 million budget, taking into consideration there's going to be a bit of a theatrical cut, plus you got to take into consideration the marketing costs? No, this movie's not going to break even. This movie's going to lose money. You need to you got to hope to at least make 1/3 to half of your budget, minimum that, in order, if you really have a good shot of breaking even, being profitable. This thing is just not going to be profitable, unfortunately. But I mean, look, give it its due, man. It did way better than I thought it would. Rob, were you surprised? Or were you pretty much expecting this thing was going to come in around 30? Because I honestly probably would have pegged it a good 30% lower. I would have probably pegged it around 20. What did you think?
Dude, I always get a lot of guff for not loving Goonies. The second movie on my list that I don't love is the original Space Jam. I had limited and low expectations for this. And everything I've read about it and the box office, I'm surprised it made as much as it made. And the thing is, there's a lot of work that went into the production of this movie. These are not easy movies to make. This is not a movie that was just tossed off. This brings to bear unbelievable amounts of technology and creative power to make. But why? I don't know. And no, I'm surprised it made as much as it did. And God bless everybody who loves this franchise. God bless you all.
Here's the question, though. Okay, 31, that's more than we thought it would. My take on it, though, is that it is nowhere near enough for this thing to break even. I mean, am I being pessimistic? Because I don't see this thing doing well weekend 2. It's just not very good, but some people are liking it, and that's great. All film is subjective. Can you see this thing with a $150 million production budget, not counting marketing? Can you see this thing breaking even or even being profitable, just taking in $30 million in its opening weekend? Can that happen?
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing about a movie like this. Because of its subject matter, I can see it having a long and lucrative life, because I think that a lot of people will buy this movie when it's available on VOD, downloads. Parents, this will probably be a perennial favorite. It'll run on HBO forever. And it is part of the Space Jam franchise. I mean, people are going to love this movie. And I think that especially younger kids, maybe. So I could see it perhaps breaking even, but I'll bet this movie was a lot more expensive, because I'm like, I know it's Warner Brothers, but do they have to pay a licensing fee for all the characters that appear in this movie? How can this movie ever break even? They're going to be paying rights owners forever, but who knows?
Unless they were only putting characters in it that Warner Brothers already owns the rights
already
for.
owns. I know.
Which is kind of what I think they probably did. But again, better than I thought. But I still think this is going to end up being a disaster for them. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe this thing will have better legs than we're anticipating. More people like it than I'm the guy who should be predisposed, because I'm a huge LeBron James fan. Like I said, my second all-time favorite basketball player. Somebody in the live chat was saying, John, who's your favorite? My actual all-time favorite basketball player was Larry Bird. Larry Bird is my all-time favorite. But LeBron is probably my second favorite all-time basketball player. So I was kind of happy when they first announced it. But yeah, I just thought it was terrible. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that $30 million opening? $31.6 million may not sound like a lot, but I got to tell you, man, that blows away the expectation I had for it initially. It's better than I thought it would do. Still don't think it's going to break even. Maybe you do. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.